the Pirate King landed in our world. Unawares fewer changes.
Hello everyone, welcome to What If Luffy Got Teleported to Modern World movie. Before we start, please go support Kayla 200,812 for writing that awesome fanfic. This is the translated version I made. There will be some mistaken characters' gender, but of course Luffy is a male. Luffy, after having so many adventures with his nakamas, had already become a yonku with a size of 1,500,000,000 berry, but in the middle of a battle they were having on an island, they managed to trap him in a net of algamatolite, thus leaving him without strength for combat. After his nakamas will manage to untie him, a black hole product of an Akuma no Mi appears below him and makes him reborn in a parallel world where there are no pirates or Akuma no Mi. He was reincarnated in a modern world where technology is everywhere, being, in part, Ace's biological brother, but not Sabo's. Will he be able to return to his world without anyone discovering him? Or will you want to stay in that new world where you will begin a new adventure? BFFF, who are we kidding? It's obvious that the monkey will want to return home, but a little laziness after all the stress he went through on that island won't hurt anyone, right? Chapter 1. New Island. Nami. Idiot. She said, hitting her captain, it's your fault we ran out of food and you still ask for more. You better go fishing and see if you get some. Luffy. Yes, he said, a little sore from the blow his navigator had given him, and started fishing. That was a very normal scene on that ship until Luffy managed to spot an island in the distance. It had a lot of trees and a volcano, so he assumed there would be no problem finding food and a small town could be seen. Luffy. Guys. I saw an island. He warned, excited and with a big smile, characteristic of him. Usopp. Really? Where? Luffy. There. Look. He replied to his nakama, pointing at the island with his finger. Upon arrival at the island. Nami. Okay guys, let's hand out the errand, said the navigator, seeing that her friends had different expressions on their faces. Sanji and Luffy are going for food, Robin, Frankie, and I are going to the small town to collect what's missing to repair the ship because, while Luffy, Chopper, and Usopp were playing, Luffy accidentally damaged the ship and Frankie was missing some pieces to rebuild that part of the Sunny, and Brook, Zoro, Chopper, and Usopp are staying to protect the Sunny. Understood. Sanji, Frankie, Usopp, Brook, Chopper. Yes. Nami, Swan. Yes. Superior. Yes. I had to stay on the ship. Yes. But then you would be so polite as to show me your brag. He was hit before finishing the sentence. Yes. W. Sanji. Come on, shitty captain. He realized too late that Luffy had probably already gone too far to reach him. Sigh, I better go to the forest, most likely I'll find him there, and when we're done we'll go to the city for the various spices and condiments. Everything is normal up to that point, but let's see how Nami thinks. Now arriving at the village, if it could still be called that. Nami, wow, everything's falling apart, she said, as she detailed the place where they were. Most of the things that were falling apart were the houses, and it was also immediately noticeable that a lot of food was missing due to how malnourished some of the inhabitants were, and in the small shops there wasn't much, but she didn't understand why, if they had a vast forest nearby. So she decided to ask Robin to see if she could clarify her doubts. Robin. Robin. Yes, Nami. The named one was already getting an idea of why he had called her, but let her go and ask him herself. Nami. Why does the city have so little to no land? There's a forest with lots of plants nearby. Couldn't they go there to collect money and food? Frankie. Thinking about it, it's true. Robin. For now I couldn't tell you, but we could investigate more by going around the town, and in case we ask someone if they know why this happens, Robin answered his friends, although they were still left with a doubt. They walked around the village a bit but didn't find any clues since the villagers didn't want to talk about it, but Frankie was able to gather the materials he needed. While on the Sunny everything was quiet, Zoro sleeping as always, XD, Brook drinking the, Usopp creating a new weapon, and Chopper adjusting some medicine things while he let some herbs and plants dry. But now let's return to our monkey and Sanji. After a while Luffy and Sanji had managed to find each other and, after Luffy had a good beating, they managed to capture many animals. Luffy. Great. Now we can return to the ship. Said a smiling Luffy. Sanji. No, I still need to grab some condiments. Luffy. What? He said a little discouraged, can't you take them to the next island? Sanji. No, so stop whining and let's go. Luffy. Little pout, okay. While Sanji and Luffy go down to the city, let's see again what happens to Nami. After walking for quite some time and buying some things, they see a tall grey building made of cement with quadradas windows and surprisingly in good condition compared to the other houses and other businesses that were around there, and while they traveled throughout the city, the word spread that some pirates had arrived on the island. Nami, Robin and Frankie had already joined up again with Luffy and Sanji. Guard. Are you the pirates who entered the forest without permission? Asked a man armed with a gun. Luffy. He looked at him strangely but decided to answer yes. Why? Bard. You have to give me 5 million berry immediately if you don't want me to kill you, understood? Nami? What? But Luffy and Sanji didn't do anything wrong to the forest. Right. Bard. No, but they entered the forest so they will have to pay 5 million berry each, which would be a total of 10 million berry. Nami. I'm not going to pay that much just because Luffy and Sanji entered the forest. If you want, you can give us what we hunted, but I'm not going to pay that much. Bard. Then I have no choice. I'll have to kill them, shoots at Nami, but Luffy gets in the way causing the shot to go towards the guard who barely manages to dodge it. All this was happening under someone's watchful eye. The guard and Luffy began to fight, although obviously Luffy was not fighting seriously since he had not even activated Gear Second. After a bit the fight ended and on the floor was an unconscious guard due to the previous blow given by the monkey. Unknown. Giggle, interesting, he said, in a calm tone, with a voice that was neither too high nor too hoarse, but you could tell it was a man. Frankie. Why would we have to pay to enter the forest? That's not cool at all. Sanji. I don't know, but for now it's better if we go buy the condiments I'm missing. The villager approaches them. Villager. You better leave and faster else he'll make you disappear. He said with horror on his face, warning them of the danger they were in for being there. Robin. Him. Villager. Just run away. Believe me, it's the best thing you can do right now. Luffy. If he tries to make me disappear I'll hit him and that's it, said the carefree monkey as he usually was. Robin. Could you tell me who he is? Villager. No, sorry, I've already said too much, he replied and then ran away since he didn't want to get into trouble. Sanji. It's better to go ahead and buy the condiments, if someone tries to attack us we'll kick their ass. On the ship almost the same thing happened, only Zoro cut the guard leaving him knocked out. Captain of the soldiers. Don't move. We have 5,000 men ready to attack. I was already bored of riding so much, so I will summarize the fight by saying. The guards began to attack, but obviously the Mugiwara were winning. To be specific, there were less than half of the guards fighting, that is, almost 900 or 1,000 that were always increasing because reinforcements arrived until. Frankie. Luffy, be careful. An algamatolite net had trapped Luffy and he was trying to get free, but it wasn't working and he was already getting too weak. Sanji. Frankie, go get Luffy. I'll make sure no one attacks you from behind. He said while trying to see who had thrown that algamatolite net. Frankie. Okay. He replied as he ran towards Luffy and as soon as he arrived he tried to remove the net that was on him, but he still couldn't do it. Luffy. I'm sorry, he had no strength left. He felt extremely tired. Frankie. Don't worry, Captain. I'm going to take this off. Super. Red. Sanji. Move, Frankie. Sanji approached his nakama. Frankie. I'm almost there. Just give me a few more minutes, he replied, and in almost 2 more minutes he managed to open the algamatolite net and throw the monkey out. I did it. Luffy. Thanks, Frankie. He thanked him, trying to recover as quickly as possible and started to fight too, defeating quite a few soldiers, but out of nowhere someone appeared coming out of a black hole, which surprised the Mugiwara who were there, making them even more alert than they already were. Were you the one who threw that algamatolite net at me? Unknown. Giggle. Wow, did you realize? He asked calmly, but with a touch of sarcasm in his words, only seeing a small giggle on the side and sharp green eyes, since the hood he had did not allow you to see his face or the shape of his hairstyle well. Luffy. Doubting a little about why he didn't feel so threatened by that guy, he decided to ask him. Who are you? Are you the one who commanded this entire army? Unknown. First. It's none of your business, and second. Yes, it was me. Luffy. Nami will surely strangle me if I try to give you even a single berry from our treasure. Besides, we only entered the forest, we didn't do much damage, and I think the animals are just unconscious, so if you want we can give them to you. He said to avoid fighting more since he didn't feel any threat in the guy's aura. Unknown. Chuckles, that's not exactly why the army is sent. Luffy. What? And then stop, he couldn't finish the sentence as he noticed a black hole underneath him that was starting to swallow him. What the hell is Eastern Standard Time? The hole had swallowed him. But he could hear a whisper before it disappeared completely. Don't worry, I'm not going to hurt any of your nakamas, but you'll have to find a way to get back. Chapter 2. The Modern Beginning. When Luffy was a baby, he still didn't have the consciousness to remember well how things went, but the more he grew, the more he remembered about his world in One Piece. At the age of 6, he fully regained consciousness, but he still had to give the impression that he was a child, which wasn't very complicated given how he normally was. Above all, he shouldn't pretend he was made of rubber, because if anyone found out, he'd be done for. The one who was looking after him at the moment was Garp, who started training him at the age of 4, sending him to a forest. Now Luffy is 7 years old. Garp. Luffy, I know it's sudden, but two important people are coming today. Your new brothers. Luffy. Brothers. Is he talking about Sabo and Ace? Who are they? Damn, I stuttered. Arp. Their names are Ace and Sabo. Don't worry, you don't have to get nervous. You'll find that you'll become good friends with them just because of who you are. Luffy. I have to calm down, I had to deduce that this was going to happen at some point, but it's better to go calmly, I'm not going to think about something when I never did, just don't rush to Ace crying when he arrives, don't do it. Yes. Arp. Well, they're going to arrive in an hour so get ready he warned him, to dress presentable, and in the meantime grab a package of his favorite cookies. Luffy. Muo, but grandpa, if they're going to come to our house, can't I stay like this? He said with some reluctance to prepare himself. Arp. No. You have to look presentable. So move on and put on some new clothes or I'll give you one of my love fists, do you understand? Luffy. Yes. I'm coming. He replied to his grandfather, then ran worse than Flash to his room to avoid receiving a punch and staying with a bump on his head. He's wearing a shirt like the one in the picture he's betiflued. Luffy. I'm ready grandpa. He said, getting off after about 5 minutes. Arp. Take off your hat brat. Luffy. But why? I think what I'm wearing looks good on me. He answered his grandfather, but he wouldn't take it off anyway. Arp. Because we're not in a field, so take it off. Luffy. No. Arp. Do you want to receive a fist of love? Luffy. No. But I'm not going to take it off for anything in the world. He said with a pout which made him look adorable and holding it with his hands so that they wouldn't take it off. Arp. Take it off now. He was interrupted by the sound of someone knocking on the door, so he had to put aside the fight he was starting with his grandson to open the door. Hello, you are Ace and Sabo, right? Sabo. Yes, he answered politely, something that Ace surely wouldn't have done. Luffy lunges at Ace, but he managed to stop himself from crying. Luffy. Hi. I'm Monkey D Luffy. He said to Ace excitedly. Ace. Get off me. Luffy. Shh, I don't want to shh, he replied. He had truly missed his brother, and now that he had the opportunity to hug him, he would, even if he was a child and from another world, his personality surely hadn't changed, and while Sabo watched them with a drop of an I'm-style sweat. But in the end his grandfather came to separate them, well, to separate him from Ace. Arp. Brat, behave. He scolded him while giving him a love punch. Luffy. I didn't do anything wrong. Why did you hit me? The way you'd. Arp. You know very well why I hit you, so if you don't want another one, shut up. Luffy. Okay, he said while making a small pout. Sabo, I'm Sabo, he said to avoid the argument from getting worse. Ace. And I'm Ace, he said reluctantly because of what happened before, although if it hadn't happened he would still be reluctant. Arp. Did they arrive early, or was it me who got the schedule wrong? Sabo. No, it was us who arrived earlier, he said calmly and with a smile, since he didn't want to seem rude. Arp. Oh, okay. Luffy, show him the house because from today they're going to live here. Luffy. Shishishi is fine he replied to his grandfather with a smile, apparently he had gotten over his anger from the blow from before he said as he began to walk backwards to guide them through the house. Sorry for the bad drawing, I wanted to hurry up and continue writing, and I'll probably describe the second floor in the next chapter. P.S. Imagine the house with much more space. It was me who didn't know how to provide it well. Sabo. And the bathroom? Luffy. It's on the top floor, near our room Shishishi. And that's how Ace and Sabo transferred to Luffy's house. The most antisocial was Ace because he didn't trust Luffy and Garp, and he also disliked Luffy because of the affectionate way he treated him, but after a few months he managed to establish a friendship with Luffy. Chapter 3. ASL Moments. 1 equals butterflies. Luffy. Hey, Ace, Sabo. Ace. What do you want? He said while looking at him badly. Sabo. Yes, Luffy. He answered with some curiosity, although he also had to get used to the new place a little. Luffy. Shall we go outside to catch butterflies and insects? He said with a smile, ignoring the fact that Ace had been reluctant since morning. He knew that at first he had to gain Ace's trust, and probably this time it would be more difficult. And from what he saw, he wouldn't have so many problems with Sabo. Sabo. Okay, it will be fun. Ace. No, he answered coldly. Luffy. Come on, you have to play too, he said, pouting slightly and pulling his arm a little. Ace. No, and much less if you ask me, so let me go, he answered seriously and with a frown. Sabo. Sigh, come on Ace, do you intend to sit all the time? One day or another you're going to get bored. Ace. What do you care? Anyway, in 2 months we'll start classes. Sabo. And in these 2 months you're probably going to get bored. Luffy. Exactly. "Come on, don't be grumpy and come," he said and then pulled him. Ace. Okay, I'm going, but stop pulling my shirt or else you'll tear it. Luffy. Shishishi, okay. Here you go, he said and then released it and gave each of them a butterfly net. Let's go. I saw some blue butterflies over there, he indicated with his finger a spot of grass where there were more flowers, while he began to leave, opening a glass door, and Sabo and Ace followed him. Imagine you have a butterfly net and not the sticks. Luffy turned his head to see Ace's expression and was pleased to see one of those arrogant smiles he had been missing for years. Just for capturing 3 butterflies, Shishishi, he couldn't help but burst out laughing out of joy at being able to spend moments like that with his brother again. He was starting to worry that he might start crying. Ace. What are you laughing at? He said, half frowning, because he apparently noticed the look directed at him. Luffy. Nothing, he said, rushing towards Ace to hug him and with a huge smile, one of those sincere ones that he hadn't given for a long time. Ace. Hey. Get out of the way. Sabo. Ah, come on, Ace, he's just hugging you, it's nothing special. Ace. He answered without even speaking, turning his head to the other side so they wouldn't see the small blush he had, but anyway, he let Luffy hug him and after a little the monkey got off him, helping him stand up. Little bonus. Ace. Come on, move, Luffy. 2 equals I guess it's not so bad being with you. Arp. Brats. Luffy. What's wrong, Grandpa? Arp. I'm going to train you so that you can be strong Marines, so get ready because tomorrow we're going to leave for training. Ace. Why so suddenly? He said reluctantly. Arp. Because you are not strong at all. I'll skip this part, so let's go straight to the part where they're already in the forest. Arp. Brats, I'm going to leave you here for a month to train in the forest, understood? Ace. What? He tried to process what they had told him. 1 month was too much. Are you crazy, man? Arp. Who are you calling crazy, brat? He said and then gave Ace a love punch. Ace. There. He only managed to complain since he didn't want another punch from his supposed grandfather. While Sabo and Luffy were on the sidelines of the little fight since they didn't want to get beaten up too just for being near Ace. Arp. Try to survive in this forest for 1 month. Luffy. I didn't complain since it was a very good opportunity to train and now that I knew how to do it, I would surely put much less time into it. The only thing is that I have to be careful that my brothers don't find out for now, I think they are still too young to keep such a secret. Okay, I answered my grandfather while Ace and Sabo were complaining to him. Ace. What? Do you agree? Luffy. Sip shishishi, I said with one of my characteristic smiles, bigger than my own face. Sabo. Do you really agree with this, Luffy? He asked him, since he was responsible and didn't complain about many things, but living in a forest for a whole month would practically be committing suicide. I think it's really exaggerated and risky, we're still children of only 10 years old. How do you think we're going to survive? Luffy. Hunting animals to cook and eat them, right? Sabo. I didn't mean that, he said, sighing at the situation they were in. Luffy. Ah, and I'm 7 years old. Ace. Hey, old man. It's unfair that, he said, turning his head to reproach him, but he discovered something that left him angry and completely worried. You leave us here. Sabo. And now what are we going to do? He said, almost in shock and starting to get worried. They knew absolutely nothing about how to survive. They didn't even have a house. Even if it was small and at least they could sleep in it. Ace. That damn old man. He paused for a few seconds and continued what he was saying. He's going to pay for this. Guys. Come on. We'll survive here for a month and then we'll kick his ass. Sabo. Luffy. Apparently they also liked the idea so they got motivated like Ace and answered yes. Clearly Luffy was just playing along. Sabo. Well, first we have to find a cave to sleep in and something to cover ourselves with, then we'll build a small shelter for the 3 of us, but the first thing we have to think about is food. Ace. I'll get the food. Sabo. Okay, then Luffy and I are going to find the cave. After they found a cave suitable for sleeping, they decided to also get something to cover themselves and something to create a small phallus. Ace on the other hand had already managed to catch some fish, so he was already going to the predetermined point and they would surely ask him why he took so long, but it's not as if the fish will be caught so easily, so they couldn't blame him for anything. They were tired but satisfied with all the work they had done and that would be waiting for them every day for a whole month. After a while, they lay down near the entrance of the cave, watching the stars. Ace. Do you know what, Luffy? Luffy. No, K. Ace. Well, I guess it's not so bad being with you. Luffy. His eyes lit up and he immediately lunged at Ace to hug him. I love you, you don't know how much, he said. He will protect Ace all the time until he has to go back to his world, and this time he swore to himself that he would protect him with his very life if necessary. He didn't want to lose him again, he couldn't lose either of them again. Chapter 4. ASL moments in the forest. It had been about 4 days since their grandfather had left them in the forest, and every now and then while Sabo and Ace slept, Luffy went out to train his physique with the excuse of having to go to the bathroom. Today was the 5th day where they would try to hunt something bigger and not just fish, they had already grown tired of these, and it is not that they will fill them up much. 1 equals hunting competition. Luffy. Ni, Ace, Sabo, he said to get the attention of the other two. Sabo, yes Luffy. Did something happen? Luffy. I'm tired of eating fish, can we try to grab something other than that? Ace. It's not like it's that easy to grab an animal. Luffy. But you could try, right? Sabo. I had already tried it with a rabbit, he said, remembering that not very good moment. Ace. Ah, so that's why you had a bite and scratches on your arm. Sabo. Yes, he. Luffy. Muo, but I want to eat meat, he said in a half-bored tone. Ace. Sabo already told you. Not even he could catch a rabbit, and you think you can even catch a bird? A crybaby would never make it, believe me, he replied with a certain amount of mockery added to his words. Luffy. Are you calling me a crybaby? Ace. So, you couldn't hear me? So besides being a crybaby, you're also deaf? Luffy. Look who's talking, the narcoleptic. Ace. Who did you call a narcoleptic, crybaby? Luffy. You, he replied, sticking out his tongue at him. Ace. Now you'll see, he said, about to grab him to start a fight, but was stopped by Sabo. Sabo. And stop fighting over similar stupid things. Luffy. But the beginning. Sabo. I know, just let him say what he wants, there's no point in fighting with someone like him. Ace. Now you're on his side, Sabo. Sabo. You're 3 years older than him, you should at least understand that it would be unfair to fight him, he whispered, so that only Ace would hear him, and that Luffy wouldn't turn against the two for calling him a kid. Ace. Okay, he replied, whispering in the same way, not really agreeing, but coming to him a pretty good idea that would also be an opportunity to humiliate Luffy and make him understand that he was right. Hey guys, I had a pretty good idea. Luffy. What thing? He answered, still a little annoyed, but it would pass. Ace. And if we do a hunting competition? He proposed his idea, seeing the facial reactions of his friends and Luffy's. It was clearly seen that he was a little confused, but at least he understood what the idea was about. So everyone hunts what they want and eats what they want, but it will depend on you to catch something big or small, and whoever catches more wins, understood? He explained, directing the last part mostly to Luffy. Luffy. High equals yes. Ace. Okay, then let's start, he said with an arrogant smile, believing that he was going to win, but he didn't count on Luffy having more experience than him. Sabo. I honestly don't think it's a very good idea, he said, almost whispering so the others didn't hear him or simply ignored him because they didn't care what he thought about it, but anyway, Sabo thought it was a very bad idea. What if they get seriously hurt later? Yes, they could manage to bandage an eventual wound, but they couldn't even disinfect it well. Sighed. Anyway, they've already started, he said, watching how they started, and decided that it would be better if he did it too, or else he would go without dinner, because he doubted that any of them would share a small part of the food with him. Yes, Luffy shared, and you could say that he was a good boy, excluding the pranks he did. But if it was about food, you could be sure that he wouldn't give you a crumb. The 3 of them leaving in completely different directions, Sabo hesitated a little whether or not to follow Luffy to protect him from any dangerous animal, but in the end he didn't do it when he saw the determined and confident look that Luffy had. He may be more courteous and gentle than Ace, but that didn't mean that he would save Luffy if that involved his physical integrity, so he just kept running along his path, looking for any large animal that crossed his path. Well, with Ace. There doesn't seem to be any big animals around here, let's see here, he said, getting closer to a part with a few rocks that formed almost a small cave, seeing that there was a fox. He had found something very good, and it seemed big, surely under all that hair, there would be enough meat to win the competition. Sorry Luffy, but I think I'll win today, he whispered to himself, while holding the half-sharpened stick he made even tighter, with an arrogant smile. All this happened with Luffy. Luffy. Let's see, I think there should be some crocodiles in the lake. I could hunt one and cook it later in the cave, shishishi. It doesn't seem like a bad idea, Yosh. I'm going to do this. He said to himself, then looked for a lake where he could find them, and after a few minutes he found it, but he still didn't know how he could hunt them. He was no longer the 19-year-old boy he had been before, now he was 7 years old. Yes, he may be mentally 19 years old, but that didn't change the fact that he wasn't as strong as before, and after thinking about it for a few minutes, an idea came to his head. I can use hockey. He said thoughtfully, since he came to this world he had never thought about it. Besides, when he went to train at night while his brothers were sleeping he didn't stray far, so if he used hockey on an animal, he didn't want to run the risk of not being able to control it and wake his brothers up, but now that they were far away he could try it on the crocodile, right? Fine, I'll try it on the crocodile. He was getting closer to the lake, and then two crocodiles came out with clearly not very friendly intentions, slowly approaching him. The crocodile roared and then went to attack Luffy, but Luffy, just by looking at him in the eyes, knocked out almost half of the crocodiles that were in the lake. Wow, it seems that I have my king's haki. The only problem is that I don't control it very well. Shishi, well, I can fix that later. Now let's see if I have good control of the armor haki, he said, to then concentrate and get his haki to cover half of his arm in an apparent shiny black, and threw a fist that devastated almost an entire row of giant dawns, one after another. Shishishi, it seems that my haki woke up completely. Must that be why it's so out of control? Ah, how annoying. I'll have to train for a few months to recover my original handling of haki. Well, I think it's time to return to the cave. It's getting dark, Shishishi, he said to himself, and then headed to the cave with one of the crocodiles that were on the shore. Sabo was the fastest to bring his food, since unlike the other two, he didn't eat that much. Ace. I'm here. He said with a sideways smile, arrogantly. Luffy hasn't arrived yet, Sabo. Sabo. Apparently not, he said with concern. Ace. How long have you been here? He said slightly seriously. Sabo. Since almost 15 minutes, why? Ace. No, nothing, he answered, trying as much as possible to pretend that he didn't care about anything, but in reality he was worrying about Luffy and was recalculating his idea. Although he would never admit it out loud, he didn't dislike that brat that much, but he decided to wait, and after a few minutes he started to worry, but he didn't notice it until someone shouted. Luffy. Guys. I'm Harry. Shishishi, he said with excitement, not being able to contain his typical giggle and running to the cave, but neither Sabo nor Ace greeted him when they saw what he was carrying or rather dragging. Sabo. Luffy, he called his brother to answer a question that even he could answer himself, but he couldn't believe it. Luffy. MMH. What's up, Sabo? He responded to his older brother's call with apparent doubt about knowing the reason why he had called him. Ace. Is that a crocodile? He asked, clearing up Sabo's doubt and letting him know that he wasn't hallucinating. That thing was really what they were thinking. They couldn't believe it, but Ace obviously didn't like the fact that someone would surpass him by so much. We all know how he is. I mean, arrogant and proud. Luffy. Shishishi, yep, he responded simply, apparently not caring about the astonishment of the other two, or perhaps, because of how he was, not realizing it. In the end they cooked what he had brought. Everyone ate quietly and Ace had to admit his defeat, but Sabo, before Luffy cooked the crocodile, noticed that it didn't even have a scratch, but he let it go thinking that he had found it there in the forest already unconscious, something that Ace also thought, only excluding the part about the scratches, since he hadn't paid attention to that. 2. Building the shelter. It had been a few days since they had had that hunting competition, and everything had been resolved without much fighting on the part of Ace and Luffy, well, mostly because Sabo didn't let them continue arguing. He knew very well how Ace was, and if they continued, he was sure that at least for that month he wouldn't forgive Luffy, and the truth is he wasn't going to put up with a grumpy and angry Ace. Sabo. Guys, we can't continue living in this cave. Why don't we start building our shelter? Sabo proposed to the two when he saw that they were already starting to fight again. Apparently Luffy loved the idea because his eyes looked like stars, giving him a cute touch for the simple fact of being a child. On the other hand, Ace had one of his typical arrogant smiles on his face. Luffy. Yosh. Let's start. He replied with emotion stamped on his face, forgetting, however, a detail that Ace later nominated. Ace. And how will we do it? He said, crossing his arms, asking Sabo with evident doubt, something he had not thought about. Sabo. Well, first, let's start by establishing the place where we have to make the shelter. Luffy. What do you think about doing it on top of a tree? He proposed to the other two, hoping they would accept. He would like to spend something similar to his childhood in the other world anyway. He would make them accept whether they wanted to or not. Sabo. You know that's not a bad idea. Ace. I agree with Sabo. I thought your IQ was on par with a monkey's, he said to Luffy to annoy him, which obviously worked. Luffy. Hey. Sabo. Don't start a fight over something so stupid and start working. He approached the two, addressing Ace mostly, knowing that the one who had started it was him. Ace. Luffy. Okay, they said in unison with two different tones, one quite happy and determined on Luffy's part, and another more reluctant and serious on Ace's part. Luffy. The stairs look great. Don't they? Ace. Did you doubt it? Luffy. Shishishi. Nope. To clarify. They slept in the cave for the rest of the night and continued building the next morning until they finished it. Luffy. Finally we finished it, he said with small tears and with his eyes rolled back, and then fell asleep out of nowhere, making the scene look very funny, while Ace yawned from tiredness and sleep, and Sabo laughed at seeing that little scene of his brothers. You. 3. Intuitions. Sabo. And again. Because Luffy always goes out at midnight who knows where, and the last time I asked him he answered saying that he had to go to the bathroom. Is it that it became a routine for him to go every night to apparently go to the bathroom and return at around 3 or 4 in the morning? Today I am completely convinced. I will follow him. I waited until he goes down the stairs of our shelter to have a better chance of not seeing me, but always being able to keep him in my sight. I followed him and apparently he was going to the forest and he did nothing. After about 2 minutes he came back, but I managed to be faster than him and pretend to be asleep. Phew, he barely saw me. Luffy. I already knew that Sabo had followed me, and I tried to make him not suspect anything. The problem is that the next night he did it too, and on the third night I decided to go further away so he wouldn't be able to follow me, so I ran as fast as possible in another direction, believing that he hadn't managed to follow me. Finally I can train in peace, although it annoys me having to go through almost half the forest again, so as not to be found by Sabo. Nah, what can I do, he said to himself, raising his back like this. 7 up yosh. Now to train. Shishishi, he said, then tested his aim by trying to hit a tree a few meters away by stretching his arm as much as possible. Why, he complained after a while when he saw that an animal was about to bite him. Wow, that was close, he said, and then stretched his arm and managed to hit it. He turned his head to check for any wild animals he might encounter. Sabo. What was he doing here? Did he manage to follow me? Find me? See what I was doing? He didn't manage to see my arm stretch out, right? It was too dark for him to see, wasn't it? Sabo. How did you do that? He managed to articulate in complete shock and confusion, pointing a finger at Luffy. Luffy? What are you talking about, Sabo? He tried to confuse him by playing the innocent without any success. Sabo had seen it, he was sure, but how would he explain to him that he came from a kind of parallel dimension in which pirates and some devil fruits that gave you powers existed? What he did know for sure was that I was screwed. Chapter 5. ASL Moments in the Forest Part 2. In the previous chapter equals 3 intuitions. Sabo. How did you do that? He managed to articulate in complete shock and confusion, pointing a finger at Luffy. Luffy? What are you talking about, Sabo? He tried to confuse him by playing the innocent without any success. Sabo had seen it, he was sure, but how would he explain to him that he came from some kind of parallel dimension in which pirates and some devil fruits that gave you powers existed? What he did know for sure was that I was screwed. 4 conclusions. Sabo. He was still in shock, unable to believe what his eyes had seen. What was that? He asked Luffy again, using a phrase a little different from the previous one, but recovering a bit from the shock. He reacted when he saw that Luffy didn't say a word and remained silent, looking at the floor in a very nervous state. But he wanted an answer. Answer me. He demanded Luffy after a long and uncomfortable silence. Luffy. I didn't know what to do other than try to calm his nerves by scratching the back of his neck without even looking Sabo in the eyes. He sighed, trying to regain his composure and getting serious. This was no longer a game, and he trusted Sabo. Even though he was a child now, he was always the most mature of the three, so at least he was grateful that Ace wasn't the one who discovered him, because then he would really be in trouble. For now he would only tell Sabo, then he would think about how to do it with Ace. You could say I'm not completely from here. Shishishi. He let out a slight laugh to try to make his clear nervousness go unnoticed. Sabo. That doesn't answer my question, he said. A tone of nervousness and seriousness entered his tone. He never expected to see something like that from his brother. Luffy. I'm a rubber man, he said everything in one go, making Sabo look at him even more doubtful about the situation they were in, and surprised it's too long to explain why I am like this, he said, sensing that Sabo would ask him about that. Sabo, I have all night, so start explaining, he reproached him, wanting to get to the bottom of the matter, refusing to let something so important pass to make Luffy so nervous and serious, something that until he had arrived, he didn't remember having ever seen. Luffy sighed. Anyway, you're not going to leave me alone until I tell you, he said, knowing that Sabo wouldn't stop until he satisfied his curiosity. You could say that I was reborn in this world, having the same mentality that I had, but my body was rejuvenated, he said, looking at Sabo's surprised face, without still believing it, and looking for a logical explanation for what Luffy is telling him. I always write type equals before what his brother is telling him, superscript A superscript re superscript A. You're not going to find any logic if that's what you're thinking. I don't even know very well how I got here, he said to his brother, guessing what he was thinking before he claimed it, and indeed, Sabo wasn't finding even a crumb of logic in what was happening. Sabo. Luffy, if this is a joke it's not funny, he claimed, but he only found a serious face from him, making him understand that he wasn't joking. Luffy. He didn't say anything and simply hit a tree with his armor hockey, causing a row of trees to collapse, resulting in a domino effect. At this, Sabo's face showed pure disbelief and surprise. Now do you believe me? he asked the still astonished Sabo. Sabo. But he paused before continuing the sentence, having many questions in his head, yet one prevailed over all, which was how is it possible that you got here? After a few seconds, however, he began to bombard poor Luffy with questions. According to what you told me, do you come from another world? Was it like ours or different? Was it by your own will that you came here or did someone send you? Yes, why? From there, Luffy was no longer listening to him, his brain had disconnected, while on the other hand, Sabo was truly intrigued to know how Luffy managed to get here, and without even realizing it, he was once again filling Luffy with questions, and his curiosity was rising to the stars. Luffy? Hey, wait. You're asking too many questions, he said, trying to assimilate what they were asking him and giving himself mental answers. 1. I had already told you that I don't know exactly, but I would have to tell you at least the minimum before I could answer you. 2. Yes, I come from a kind of parallel world. 3. Different. 4. Someone sent me, I think. But I don't know who. And 5. I don't know, but I would have to return to my world, he answered as he could to Sabo, who had many more doubts about it. Luffy spent most of the night explaining to Sabo everything he needed to know about his world. He explained about pirates, including the Jolly Roger, their sizes, the East Blue and the Grand Line, the junkies and what their crew was like. He explained about devil fruits to clear up his doubts and why he was made of rubber. Finally, he explained how he had arrived transported through that strange hole formed by that guy, excluding many parts of the story. Luffy. Sabo, I want you to promise me something, he said in a serious tone. Sabo. What thing? He asked, attentive to what Luffy was going to say because of the seriousness he had used when saying that. Luffy. I want you to promise me that you'll never tell anyone about what we talked about. Sabo. He gave Luffy a half smile and then said, since you trusted me, I'll trust you. I won't tell anyone about this, I promise, he replied, earning a tender and calm smile from the black-haired man. And from there a bond was formed between Sabo and Luffy. The next morning Sabo and Luffy looked like zombies since they only slept for about 2 or 3 hours, although not Luffy, since he had already become accustomed to sleeping little. 5. Flores. Luffy. Shush. Catch me if you succeed, he said, finishing swallowing that last piece of meat that was left and then tripping on a root, feeling how a bump formed on his head as a result of his body to a blow given by Ace. Hey. What's wrong with you? He claimed, angrily turning his face from the floor to the top, seeing the anger in Ace's eyes. Ace. That's the minimum for eating all the meat. Sabo. Guys, stop fighting and look, here approached the two, but still pointed out the wonderful landscape, remaining stunned. Luffy. Woo was the only thing he could articulate before being left open-mouthed and dumbfounded like Sabo, then seeing that the same thing was happening to Ace, but he didn't say anything. A landscape that could only be seen in the middle of nature. A splendid field full of flowers of thousands of different colors, which gave a beautiful harmony in the air. Just by breathing you could perceive that smell that relaxes you, calms you, so fresh, a freshness that only nature can create or give. The field had a small lake nearby, from which clean blue water came out, giving a sound quite familiar to Luffy, that is, the water colliding with it, giving it that calm that he had missed by not being in Sunny's head for a while. The field was surrounded by many trees, both apple and tangerine, giving it a cheerful touch, but that was perfect with the calm that the landscape gave. Everything was perfectly in harmony, and without realizing it, the three brothers were already lying among the flowers in the shape of a triangle with calm smiles on their faces. Luffy. Shushi, nature is wonderful, he said calmly, but with his peculiar giant smile, while Ace and Sabo nodded silently, completely agreeing with Luffy. 6. Night. Of. Ace. I looked at the beautiful dark blue starry sky, being illuminated by the moonlight and being the only one awake even at this time of night, remembering everything that had happened after I went to live with Luffy, and although I wouldn't admit it, that kid really made me feel good. I didn't dislike him so much after all, and although he always did mischief, he never gave up trying to get closer to me. Should I accept his proposal? Should I really trust someone other than Sabo? Flashback. Luffy. Shushi, Ace, I called the newly appointed, making him pay attention to see what he had to say. Ace. What do you want, Luffy? He asked, a little serious but calm at the same time. Luffy. I know you're an antisocial grump. He received a grunt of annoyance in response from Ace upon sensing this, but continued, but do you at least want to start being friends? He didn't expect that from Luffy, well, not so suddenly, and it's not that he disliked the idea, but he wasn't going to trust so easily either. Ace. I'll think about it, he replied after a while of being silent. Sabo. Guys. Let's eat. He shouted to the two so they could hear him, which worked because Luffy shot off in Sabo's direction, leaving Ace alone with a question. Then flashback. Ace. I chuckled, for once I'm going to trust you, Luffy. 7. Danger. The ASL trio was going hunting in a cave they had found on the eastern side of the forest. Ace. Luffy, you should go. you'd be a nuisance if some animal attacked you. He approached him, but he really didn't want Luffy to get hurt. Luffy. But it's not fair, I want to go with you. But inside he was laughing nostalgically, since he had remembered the phrase that a 15-year-old Ace had told him. His brother had never changed and never will. Sabo. Stop fighting, we didn't come here for that, he reproached the two, but noticing the nostalgic face that Luffy showed behind Ace. I want to specify that Luffy did not tell Sabo about Ace's death. Loud roar. Ace. Guys, we have to run away. He shouted worriedly, seeing a huge bear in front of them. But before he could turn around to run away, he saw how it was about to cut him. He closed his eyes tightly, waiting for an impact that never came. Instead he heard a heartbreaking scream, making his eyes wide open. Luffy and? He asked haltingly. Feeling his eyes crystallize, he felt a stabbing pain form in his chest as his anger spiraled out of control, growing more and more and more. He turned to look at the bear with a murderous look, making him back away as he staggered, and out of nowhere, he fainted. He turned with great concern towards Luffy, looking at him. Well, he bled to death. He couldn't even finish his sentence as he fainted too. Sabo, recovering from his state of shock, immediately went to take Luffy to his shelter, where he had some bandages stored and a little itch. Don't ask me where they found it, because I don't even know. There would surely be a scar, but Luffy was lucky that the cut wasn't that deep. Chapter 6. ASL Moments in the Forest, Part 3. 8. Brotherly Promise. Ace. Luffy, stay here for today, we will go hunting, he ordered, still feeling guilty about the injuries Luffy had. Luffy? What? Forget it. I'm going with you. Ace. At least you've seen yourself. Luffy. But I was about to reproach him, but someone spoke before I could continue the sentence. Sabo. No buts, Luffy. Ace is right, your wounds, even if they aren't very deep, won't heal immediately miraculously. Luffy. Actually they already did it, but if I told them just like that, I had forgotten that I had told Sabo about the other world, so I could tell him. Okay, he answered, sending a stealthy glance to Sabo so that he understood that he wanted to talk to him, something that he apparently understood, or well, they understood, since Sabo could be the most intelligent, but Ace was always the most observant when it came to his little brother, and that didn't change even in another world. Something that made him very happy. Sabo. Ace, you go ahead, I have to grab one thing, he said to Ace, who looked at him doubtfully but decided to accept. Ace. Okay, he replied as he began to walk away until not even his hair could be seen anymore. Sabo. What happened, Luffy? He asked to understand why he had sent him that look. Luffy. Without answering Sabo, he began to remove the bandages, receiving complaints from the blonde-haired man. Sabo. Luffy. Don't take them off or else the wounds won't. He didn't finish the sentence as he saw how every wound Luffy had disappeared. How? Luffy. I think that being made of rubber, my wounds heal much faster than a human being, plus it's been almost 2 weeks and soon the month will end. Sabo. Okay, but I remind you that Ace doesn't know about this and you have to keep in mind that he is very observant. Luffy. Shishi, he always was, he never stopped being, he replied to Sabo, although that phrase was also directed at himself, and although he hid it well, he felt sad because he never got over Ace's death and probably never will. Sabo. I'll put the bandages back on you, so try not to take them off, he said, knowing that Luffy was annoyed but still received a nod from him. While with Ace a few minutes earlier. Ace. Ace. Why did Luffy send that discreet look to Sabo? Am I being paranoid? Yeah, it's probably just that. But I never expected that Luffy could go to such lengths to save someone like me. I always rejected him, and although on one hand it was true that I started loving him, I never showed it. Why be so stubborn in being friends with someone who rejects you? And although I had already told him the fact that I accepted to be his friend, why go to such lengths? But one thing I was determined about. Luffy helped him and never rejected him, something he was truly deeply grateful for, and although before telling him specifically that he would be his friend, he dared to tell him about who his father was, although never about who took care of him, and he accepted it as if it were nothing. Sabo and Luffy would officially become brothers. And Ace. Sabo hasn't arrived yet. He asked himself, leaving that topic aside as he looked back, then heard someone calling him by his name. Sabo. Ace. I am here, he answered, shouting equally so Sabo could hear him. The two went to hunt something abundant so that Luffy could eat a lot, and it is that in that month Ace and Sabo had become very strong since the beginning they were, but to be able to defeat a crocodile they had to work together. Luffy. Shishi, have you returned yet? I asked the two, seeing how they brought with them a whole crocodile. Sugui exclaimed happily with little stars in his eyes, while drool fell from his mouth, knowing how much he could eat that night. Shishi, lately they have been catching bigger prey. Sabo. Yes, he answered simply with a half smile on his face. Ace. He had decided that he would tell the two tonight after eating about what he had been thinking about for a long time now, and it was almost the last days that they would stay in that forest before his grandfather came to pick them up. "Let's get going and cook this thing," he said to the two, since his stomach was already starting to growl from hunger. "Sabo. You're right," he answered, since he also had a bad mood, although he didn't eat like the other two, well, not so exaggeratedly at least. After eating. "Ace. Guys, I call your attention before you start to go out to the treehouse to sleep." "Sabo. What's wrong, Ace?" "Ace. I wanted to do something," he answered in a very broad way, making the other two have even more doubts about the subject. Well, he was a little nervous, trying to hide it by scratching the back of his neck. "Luffy. What thing?" he asked, intrigued, noticing Ace's nerves. Ace sighed to take stock and finally, after a few seconds of pause, said, "I want the three of us to be officially brothers." He said seriously and with conviction in his words, noticing how Sabo was surprised and how Luffy's eyes shone with happiness, pouncing on him. "Luffy. Shishishi, I had done it. Ace really trusted me. I couldn't help but pounce on him, laughing with excitement, feeling him complain about falling and claiming me, but at that moment I didn't care. I was really very happy. Being able to hug again an Ace who trusted and loved me was truly the best thing that could have happened to me, and after a little I felt like my hug was reciprocated. He reciprocated my hug. I smiled even more than a human could and hugged him even tighter, trying not to hurt him. Sabo also joined us in the hug, and I tried to hug them both at the same time, although with my size, it's not like I could do it, thank you." "Ace. What about?" he asked, still a little blushed from embarrassment and looking away so as not to make it obvious. "Luffy. Shishi for trusting me," I answered, and I could see how he was surprised by my answer, but he gave a small smile. "Ace. You're welcome, idiot." Chapter 7. Daily Adventures. Their grandfather had already come to pick them up and they had returned home. Although Garp was surprised to see that Ace wasn't so cold towards Luffy anymore, he simply thought that spending a month together had brought them closer together, meaning his idea had worked. The following year, he decided that making them study at home wasn't a good idea because he was a marine and was having too much work those days, plus the kids, according to him, had to socialize and Luffy had to get rid of all the energy he had pent up, and it seemed his training wasn't much use anymore. So when Luffy was 9 and Ace and Sabo were 12, he had to send them to school. "Garp. Guys, starting tomorrow you will attend class," he informed them, or rather, he affirmed them, to the three of them, and then heard them start to complain, and as punishment, he gave them one of his love fists to the three of them, thus making them remain silent. "Luffy. You're bad, Jai-chan," he said with a pout, while rubbing the affected area, although in reality it didn't hurt him since his grandfather in this world didn't know how to use hockey. Anyway, he took school as a new adventure and an opportunity to meet new people. They went to buy what they needed, and Garp, being a famous one in the Navy, had no problem paying for things, but it is obvious that he would not spoil his brats. "Luffy. Shishishi, my bulge is much prettier than yours, Ace," he said, showing him his pirate bulge, although more than a pirate, he seems somewhat sadistic. "Ace. That's not a bunch of pirates, it's just a bunch of skeletons," he repeated for the 10th time. "Besides, mine is much cooler," he said a few seconds later, hearing how Luffy contradicted him with a pout and how Sabo sighed. "Sabo. You will never change," he whispered, turning to look at them, but saying it more to himself since he expected them to ignore him. And well. From there Luffy and Ace started a fight. One first day of school. "Luffy. Shishishi, a new adventure," he said, running in front of Ace and Sabo, while they laughed at how childish their little brother was. "Sabo. Luffy, calm down a little," he approached the little monkey since he didn't want to attract too much attention. They had never been to school and they assumed that due to Luffy's behavior, he wouldn't either. When he entered, Luffy found school very boring, but he was able to meet new friends, and what made him happiest was that in his classroom there was also a small Usopp. And Ace was furious since Luffy, his little brother, was spending all his time with that Usopp. He had to do something, and right away. "Due jealousy. Ace. Hey Luffy, what do you think if we go to the park?" he said, looking away since he felt a little embarrassed to ask him. "Luffy. I can't. I promised Usopp that we would play together at his house today, do you want to come?" "Ace. You spend all your time with that Usopp," he whispered angrily, but Luffy managed to hear him. "Luffy. It's not true," he reproached her, pouting. "Ace. Instead, yes. Luffy. But I'm with you almost the whole time I'm home. Besides, I haven't seen Usopp in 4 days. Ace. You even have a count of how many days you haven't seen him." "Sabo. What's going on here?" he asked since he didn't understand the reason for the fight. "Ace. Luffy goes out with Usopp all the time and is never with me." "Luffy. That's not true. I haven't seen him in 4 days." "Ace. See. He even keeps track of how many days he doesn't see him." "Sabo. Sigh, Ace, you're over-dramatizing things. Ace. Now you're getting into Luffy's part. Sabo. It's not that, it's that you have to leave your overprotective brother complex. Ace. Are you saying I'm jealous? Me? He asked, playing the victim and earning a poker stare from both of them. Sabo. Ace, he said, trying to get the attention of the black-haired boy, although not having much success, you can't expect Luffy not to socialize with anyone to always be with you. Ace. But. Sabo. No buts, Ace, he reproached him in a serious tone. You must accept it, he said, almost whispering, but in a calmer tone. Ace. Sigh, okay, he replied with his head down, although not yet agreeing with Sabo Luffy's idea. He was about to say something, but when he turned to talk to Luffy, he was no longer there, and instead of Luffy, there was a note on the floor that said, "See you tonight," back and next to a face that had one eye closed and showing its tongue. Oh, as soon as I get home, what will await me, he thought to himself in a very, very furious state. Sabo had a bead of sweat on his neck and was smiling nervously. He didn't want to imagine what Ace was up to with that face, and he preferred not to find out, although he knew he would tonight. Chapter 8. Daily Adventures Part 2. 3. Oh, what awaits you, Luffy? Ace had come up with, according to him, the best prank in the entire universe. He would make Luffy pay for calling him an idiot. He may be overprotective of him, but he gave him a good beating when he deserved it. A few minutes before. Usopp. Ha 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 ha, he laughed with his friend because of a joke he had made himself. Luffy. Shishishi, that guy was really crazy. He stated, earning a nod and a laugh from Usopp. Usopp. You know. You should go home already. It's very late, he told him after finishing laughing. Luffy. Muo. I don't want to. Ace will probably beat me up after what I did. Usopp. What did you do? He asked curiously. Luffy. Nothing, he replied to his Afro friend, downplaying the matter, since anyway, he, being made of rubber, would not suffer any harm. Well, I better hurry, he said to himself, collecting everything he had left in Usopp's room, not being many things, and putting them in his small bag. See you, Usopp, he said goodbye as he went down the stairs after leaving Usopp's room, hearing him say goodbye. Usopp's room was on the second floor, as was his mother's and a bathroom, while on the first floor there was the kitchen and the living dining room. Luffy. I'm here. Shishi, he announced to the void, entering through the main door of his house. How strange, is there no one there? He asked himself. Sabo. Are you back yet? Luffy. Shishishi, yep, he replied smiling. Ace. Oh, hello Luffy. Have you eaten yet? He asked smiling, greeting him, which gave Luffy a very bad feeling, but he completely ignored it when he heard the word food. Just Luffy being Luffy, he. Luffy nop. Ace. Then why don't you come eat with us? Sabo barely made dinner. Luffy. Yes. He exclaimed, smiling as much as he could and running faster than the light, arriving immediately to his chair, almost falling if it weren't for the fact that he held onto the table and began to devour his food quickly until he found the spiciest taste in his mouth he had ever felt before, and it was there when he realized that there was no type of drink on the table. He tried to open the tap, seeing how not a drop of water came out, he immediately shot to the refrigerator, and when he opened it, a bucket fell on him. Why? What the heck is this? He exclaimed, wondering what that thing was, and when he touched it he understood, it was glue, one of those that wouldn't go away even in a week. The day he would be the one to beat up his brother. See, he exclaimed, turning into a fury. He was going to pay for this. It's not like I did something so bad to Ace that he would receive such a punishment. He ran towards Ace and punched him in the stomach, not too hard, reminding himself that he had the strength of a monster. Oh well, much more than that of a normal monster. Ace. You started it, he claimed angrily and hurt by the previous blow. Luffy. Do you know how much it's going to cost me to get this glue off of me? I asked him in a reproachful tone. Ace. And what do I care about that? Luffy. Did you play the joke? You burden the consequences. For. The consequences. I'll just say that Luffy stayed at Usopp's house for about 2 days and didn't even respond to a call from his brothers, who searched like crazy all over town. Ace nearly had a heart attack when he saw that Luffy had left home. Chapter 9. Daily Adventures Part 3. Some time had passed after that little brother light, but everything was resolved after Ace and Luffy apologized. At that moment Luffy felt true terror. 5. Vaccine D. Well, apparently he had just been informed that he would have to go to a doctor to get vaccinated. He ran as fast as he could with his tiny legs, but it didn't work at all since his grandfather grabbed him by the hat, lifting it off the ground and almost drowning him if it weren't for Ace and Sabo who brought him down, protecting him. Sabo didn't care since he knew it was necessary. On the other hand, Ace was nervous, although he wouldn't show himself weak in front of his brothers. After dragging cough to Luffy, the ASL trio had to stay in the living room while their grandfather signed some things. Luffy. Me guys. Said a bored Luffy to get his brother's attention. Sabo. What's wrong, Luffy? He asked him politely as he usually did, paying attention to what Luffy had to say. Luffy? What is this? He asked, raising a magazine where a water park appeared on the front page, although due to how it looked in the image, he had not been able to distinguish it. Sabo. Oh, it's a water park. Luffy. Sugui, he shouted, I want to go. He exclaimed, smiling, and then felt a bump form on his head as a result of a blow given by Ace in this. Ace? Don't shout, idiot. He whispered angrily at his brother for attracting so much attention. Luffy. Okay, but don't hit me, he said, whining falsely since in reality the blow given by Ace hadn't affected him at all. Sabo sighed, those two are never going to change. 6. Water Park. The three brothers were heading to the water park since last time they had promised Luffy to come to the doctor's in the summer on the condition that he let himself be pricked by the needle. Luffy. Wee, exclaimed Luffy, almost flying to get out of such a high slide. Sabo. Luffy, be careful. He shouted in warning to the smallest, although it didn't help much since he had crashed on his belly. Luffy. Shishishi. Sabo had a heart attack for a moment, but he forgets too easily that Luffy was made of rubber, and he thanked Kami-sama, meaning God, that neither Ace nor his grandfather had seen what happened, although he scolded him anyway for having gone on a slide for adults. Sabo. What do you think if we go for some ice cream? Ace. It's fine by me. Luffy. Yes. He exclaimed happily as he ran away, being chased by his two brothers. Chapter 10. A camp. I'm going to change my writing style a little. To summarize as much as possible, Ace, Sabo and Luffy spent the whole day having fun at the water park until they were kicked out because of an invention Ace and Luffy made that had to do with water tubes, and from there I think you can start to understand where this is going. Apparently his grandfather had enrolled the ASL trio in a scout camp. I have no idea how to spell it, sorry, to, in his opinion, improve the relationship between the pair of brothers, which made Luffy happy, although knowing his grandfather, he knew it was just to get rid of the ball of energy called Luffy. A few weeks later. Luffy. I had already gotten used to scout camp, and being me, it wasn't difficult for me to make friends and settle into the forest, having been there for a few years. As always, I left at very high speed to an isolated part of the forest so that no one could notice me. I had already tried several ways to figure out more or less how I could return to my world, although I doubt very much that I managed to discover anything like that on my own. After about 15 minutes of warm-up, I started doing my hockey exercises, and I must say that in these years I have improved a lot since I spend most of my free time training my hockey, even though if I trained it, my body would destroy half the neighborhood, although that doesn't mean I don't do my daily exercises. Well, I guess it's time to go back if I don't want Ace and Sabo to wake up and start looking for me like crazy. Luffy has already returned to the field. Hello, Luffy. How was your training? Sabo asked in a calm tone before yawning from sleep. Great. I perfected something I can probably use in combat, plus I found some strange fruit along the way. Wait. What kind of fruit? He asked, a little scared and starting to get alarmed, knowing that the fruit he ate could be poisonous. Calm down, he said in a calm but at the same time happy and cheerful tone. They weren't radioactive, I think. Luffy? How many times do I have to tell you that you can't eat anything you come across along the way? He said and then grabbed Luffy by the feet, turning him over and starting to shake him so he would spit them out, spit them out. Spit them out. Lower your voices, you bastards. Shouted a completely angry Ace from another room, clearly feeling that his voice was muffled, surely because of a pillow. Sabo sighed deeply. Well, he began to think again about what happened before and concentrating on not shouting, or at least in a calm voice, releasing Luffy and letting him fall to the floor. Shishishi. Sorry, I won't do it again. Fine, I'll let it go, but don't let it happen again. Those things are very dangerous. Now go and try to stop Ace. We'll have to go with the others soon. Okay. He responded enthusiastically. I narrated. The three brothers went to get ready to go to camp. Luffy always dressed separately because he didn't want people to see his scar on his chest. It reminded him too much of the scar he got in Marineford, so he always preferred to keep it hidden, wearing loose clothing or shirts that covered it, and putting bandages on if he had to shower with someone other than his brothers. Normally in his world, he didn't do it because he knew perfectly well that his nakama wouldn't ask about it, but this wasn't his world. Chapter 11. Camp. I've already lost count of how old the ASL trio were, so let's say the energy ball is 12 and Ace and Sabo are 15. At first, the camp was pretty boring for Luffy, but a new guy had joined them. And since Luffy already knew how difficult it would be to get the new guy to accept being his friend, he planned to turn that into his new mission. Yosh. New mission. Befriend Torao. Luffy. Stop yelling. It's bucking 3 in the morning. You'll wake everyone up, you idiot. Ups. Mission passed. Approached Torao. Hello. Shishishi said, smiling at the one who seemed to have insomnia, and he does lol. He looked at him strangely, turning to look around to understand if he was referring to him and wondering what that dwarf wanted from him, although after a moment of silence, he decided to speak to stop that penetrating look from the shorter one that was beginning to bother him and that apparently demanded an answer. Are you talking to me? Yes, there is no one else around. And what do you want? Be your friend. Shishishi, he said, invading Torao's personal space. We don't even know each other, he said in a tone between cold and calm, but more than anything feeling uncomfortable because of the excessive closeness that he and the youngest were having. Well, let's get to know each other. He replied, without losing his smile for even a second. No thanks, he replied coldly, tired of being there, especially with that child who didn't know the concept of personal space. I swear I'll never accept a bet with Chorus-san again. Why? Why not? He grumbled, annoyed, pouting and refusing to accept the fact that Torao doesn't want to be his friend. I'm not going to stop until he accepts. Dolly. No, and go now. I still didn't understand what this child wanted with him. Bitter whispered, still with the pout on his face. Look, kid, I don't know who you are, and I'm honestly not interested. All I want is to get my ass out of here as fast as possible, so I can relax and be comfortable in my house while eating a nigirus and watching TV. I didn't come here to have fun or make friends. Fine, but you should know that I'm not leaving until you say yes. He said, and then left the place since he knew that food would be served soon. Why do I have a feeling that kid is going to be a pain in the ass? He said, letting out a stressed sigh at the end of the sentence, and after a bit, he also went to the table to get something to eat. Chapter 12. Luffy at the table concentrated only on eating, grabbing food from the nearest plates. While Law just ate quietly without paying attention to anyone, and Luffy, since he was eating, didn't care about anything else. After everyone finishes eating, Luffy was a little angry, which the two brothers noticed right away. Hey, Luffy, what's wrong? The blonde asked gently. Nothing. He answered seriously since he was thinking of a way for Torao to accept being his friend. If there's something bothering you, just let it out, said Ace, who acted strong but was actually worried. His little brother is never that serious, so it must be something important. Luffy thought about it for a moment, but in the end he accepted and decided to say, what did the two brothers so worried? I want to be friends with someone, but he doesn't want to accept. Just friends? The older black man asked threateningly. Yes, he replied, quite confused, not understanding why his brother had become so threatening. Sure. Yes. You better. He looked at him in a bad and threatening way, but then he was stopped by Sabo. Okay. You don't always have to misinterpret everything, Ace. And back to your topic, Luffy. Did you try to start a conversation with her or him? Not really, I haven't tried it. Okay, so try starting with that, okay? Yes. Shishi, thank you, Sabo. You're welcome, little ball of energy, he said, ruffling his hair and smiling, then watching Ace snatch Luffy from his arms. We may even be brothers, but Ace will never stop being jealous of Luffy. Mission. Start a conversation with Torao. After that, Luffy went to look for Torao, finding him after a few minutes sitting under a tree enjoying the tranquility. Luffy stared at him for a few seconds, enchanted and looking at him. What do you want, Mugiwara? He asked, opening only one eye, but his tone of voice was calmer this time. He didn't understand very well because she didn't tell him directly what was happening, but then she approached him and sat down to one side. I want to start a conversation with you. She answered this time with her normal tone of voice and smiling. Well, I don't, so you already go. Ichiro Vamus. No. Ailey. No. And leave me alone. He finished the sentence, starting to stand up so he wouldn't have to listen to that hyperactive and annoying little monkey again. What? He asked when he felt someone grab him by the sleeve. Can we at least try to be friends? He was stunned for a few seconds to see such a tender expression from the walking son, but he answered the question fine, he said, and then saw how Luffy acquired his happy and radiant expression again and sat down again under the grass. So what do you want to talk about? Millimeters. I don't know, I hadn't thought about that, he said, making a drop of sweat fall on Torao. I still don't understand if he's just taking the piss or is serious. Maybe if you start with something basic or something you like it would be better. Okay, then let's talk about food. What's your favorite food? Onigiri. I love meat. Oh, I see. I don't think it's very tasty, but it's not that bad. You don't like meat? That's a crime. She commented, pouting. Haha, he laughed a little at the monkey's face since, really, that couldn't be called laughter. I never said I didn't like meat, it's just not one of my favorite foods. And so they continued to expand on the topic, talking about trivialities that Luffy had already heard from his Torao from his world, with whom he had already started a similar conversation, only with more confidence. Besides, it served at least to make Law no longer see Luffy as a plague-like disease. I never thought I'd have a good time with you, you're not that bad of a person, although if you were a little less energetic it would be better. I had a great time with you too. But one question, are we friends now? You could say yes, but don't think that just because you're my friend you can stick to me all day, eh? Okay. See you then. Ace and Sabo must probably be waiting for me. Bye. Bye. Chapter 13. 1/3 of the marathon. The mission to start a conversation with Torao had been a success, they even became friends. And just like the mission, the camp had also ended, so the three brothers would return to classes again, since they spent their last 2 months at the camp and there were only a few days left until school restarted, although that only applied to the younger Raven. Luffy was, on the one hand, sad because he hated classes, but on the other hand, happy because he would find his best friend Usopp again. P.S. Luffy and Law exchanged phone numbers to keep in touch. Then from there a new saga begins. The three brothers were returning home while chatting, but before that they decided to go grab a drink at a bar. Hey guys. What's up Luffy? Sabo asked. Can I take some desserts? No. Why? He asked, making the cutest face possible, something Sabo noticed right away. No Luffy, don't even try. He warned him, unable to take his eyes off that tender little face. Shit, I hate it when he does that. Ugh, Ace, say something. You're his brother too. He reproached him, hoping in vain that he would help him. Oh no, don't include me, you know I'm the first one who can't resist that little face. You're useless. I know, but I remind you that you are the one responsible for the group. Ugh, alright. I'll buy them from you. Yay. Goodbye vacation savings, it was nice to have them with me at least on vacation, whimpered poor Sabo, knowing he won't have a cent left. Oh, come on Sabo, don't be so stingy, he mocked, seeing how he glared at him. After that little inconvenience the three left the bar and while they were returning home they heard some meows. What was that? Ace asked, hearing a slight squeal coming from an alley. I don't know, are we going to control it? Answered Sabo. Yep, Luffy replied. After that brief conversation, they entered the alley, noticing a small cardboard box with something moving inside. Luffy was the first to approach and check what was inside, noticing a cute injured kitten, multicolored and with rather fine fur, and also all wet. I found the image on Pinterest and it was the one that inspired me the most. How cute. He exclaimed the moment he saw it. Hey, Sabo, we can. No, they answered in unison. You know very well that Grandpa doesn't want to, Sabo said, then followed by Ace. It's true Luffy, I'm sorry but we can't catch him. But he's hurt. What? Where? On the hind leg. Let me see, he said, approaching and noticing that indeed there was an injury on the hind leg. So what do we do? Ace asked this time. I know that if Grandpa finds out, he'll kill us, but even though the wound doesn't seem serious, it could get infected very quickly. By the way, it looks fresh, Sabo commented, being the most experienced in this type of thing. Okay, anyway, we have a little house, or rather a hiding place, in the big tree. We can hide him there for now. In the meantime, it was Luffy who had the kitten, while the other two talked about how they would shelter and cure the cat. Hey Sabo, let's keep it between us, but that looks like a gunshot wound, the freckled man whispered, thinking that only Sabo would hear him. Indeed, it is a wound caused by a gunshot. You can see it by the depth. It seems like it was caused a few hours ago. Luffy could perfectly hear what Ace said, thanks to his training with Rayleigh, which greatly refined his senses. In addition, knowing how to detect that the wound was caused by a bullet was very easy for him, since he had been through countless battles. And this left the two brothers quite surprised, especially Ace, since he was the one who didn't know Luffy's secret. Since their grandfather wasn't there that day, they spent all their time treating the kitten, feeding him and giving him a shower, which ended with a few scratches for all three of them, and they came out soaked. But Ace was left wondering. Where the hell had his pure and innocent little brother learned to distinguish a bullet wound so well? Now what do we do with him? Ace asked. I'd say it's best to leave him in the tree with something to cover him so he doesn't escape and reopen his wound, he replied, already starting to think about all the things necessary to keep him safe. For now, let's build him a little house so he can sleep there. You go grab some blankets we don't use anymore, I'll take care of the rest, he asked his dark-haired brother. Okay, but first I'm going to see what Luffy is doing, he replied and then went to the main room where Luffy was supposed to be. Hey Luffy. He shouted into the void, hoping for an answer. And now where has he gone? You what the hell is wrong with you Luffy? I almost got a heart attack. He said and then proceeded to strangle the younger brunette while she was laughing. Ahaha, you should have seen your face, haha, he continued laughing until after a while he stopped. Hey Luffy, he said, already recovering, but noticing that something was missing. Where is the cat? He asked in an alert tone. In my bed. What do you mean, in your bed? Tell me you at least closed the door. No shishishi, why? He asked at the alert tone Ace used. And if he escapes? He reproached him. Don't worry about that, he's sleeping, he answered the tallest while the latter glared at him. Let's go see right away. Okay, let's go, he replied very calmly. The two went to Luffy's room, and upon entering they noticed that the cat was indeed asleep. The problem was another. What's that? Luffy said, noticing a small silhouette in a corner of the room. Meanwhile, the kitten had already woken up and brought the small creature to Luffy. A mouse. Why does Ace want to give me a mouse? It's like he's giving you his hunting trophy. Oh, I see, he said, smiling, thanks. This time he spoke to the cat and grabbed the dead mouse, a little disgusting, but thank you. Come on, let's go, he said, trying to grab the cat and getting a scratch in return. Hey. That hurts. Grrrrrrr. Ha ha ha. And don't laugh. I still have to grab the blanket Sabo asked me for. Hey Ace, Sabo spoke to him in a calm tone while they were fixing the kitten's little shelter. What happened? Our brother's birthday is coming up soon, where should we celebrate it? I have no idea, really, the most appropriate thing would probably be to take him to a steakhouse and spend the afternoon watching movies or something like that. I like the restaurant idea, but the movie thing seems really boring. Isn't there another place Luffy would like? He started thinking of something better than the one previously proposed. Ace was thinking about it too. Luffy really likes open spaces. How about an amusement park? No, he wasn't convinced by the idea. A water park? No way, same thing as the amusement park, only they couldn't go to this one since summer was practically over. Damn. Something must have happened Sabo he paused briefly to see how to formulate the sentence. Tell me the first three things that come to mind, without thinking too much, about Luffy. We'll meet, brother and play. His head clicked. How about we go to the forest where Grandpa sent us and spend the whole day there? You know what? It's not a bad idea, but first let's go to a restaurant nearby so we don't have to hunt there. It's better if we stay for the afternoon. Okay, so it's decided after all. The forest was the place where he knew what Luffy really meant to him and what he did, he could never forget, even if he wanted to. That was where he cried for the first time in his bucking life for someone in that place. They had become brothers. 3. Chapter 2/3 of the marathon. Luffy woke up with a start. He didn't know why, but he felt a bad feeling. What had happened? He remembered having a dream that he couldn't remember anything about, absolutely nothing. But it looked terrifying, and he didn't understand why. Maybe the bad feeling was due to the nightmare, but he knew it wasn't. He'd had that feeling before. Where? Ma, who cares, let's eat. He flew down the stairs as usual to wait for Sabo to finish taking the pancakes out of the pan. Hello Sabo, he greeted with excitement and with his eyes shining, fixing his attention on the pancakes without even understanding what Sabo was talking about. Maybe he just greeted him back. Well, the truth is he doesn't care if there's food in the middle. He sighed resignedly. You didn't even hear me, did you? Fine, when you're done I'll tell you, he said, serving him the plate full of pancakes. Hey. Don't choke, idiot. He said, patting him on the back. Sabo explained to Luffy that for his birthday they had planned to go to an all-you-can-eat restaurant where they would first eat and then go to a special place. Understood? I repeat, I don't want you to misbehave when we go out. He repeated for the 1000th time in a stern tone. Yes, I understand, he replied, tired of always hearing the same thing. When will it be? As I thought, you didn't hear anything. He sighed heavily and repeated it after tomorrow, okay. In 2 days, he emphasized the number hoping that he would remember it, and finally Luffy's torture was over. Can I go now? Yeah. Yay. And ran off to Zoro's house. They hadn't known each other long, but they already fit in really well, and they'd planned a whole day of video games before school started. Well, I guess it's my turn today to give you a good bath, kitty, come here. Stupid cat, he lamented, covering all his scratches with band-aids and bandages after disinfecting them as best he could. I guess when Ace gets back, I'll tell him the cat can go tomorrow. It was fun having him with us, but he's a stray and I doubt he'll ever get used to being inside. There are too many reasons why we can't have him, even though it was fun taking care of him for that short time. She heard the front door open and assumed it was Ace, so she got out of bed and packed away most of the things she had used to heal herself and the cat. When she finished, she went down to the living room and waved to Ace. Hello brother. Hello. How did it go? The truth is, better than expected, he answered while a half-smug, half-amused smile formed on his face. And Luffy? He asked, noticing the absence of the aforementioned due to the silence. I already told you yesterday. He went to play video games at a friend's house, he said, sounding a little annoyed at having to repeat it so many times. Ooh. That guy. You know I don't like him, right? That guy is a bad influence on Luffy. Ace, for you everyone is a bad influence on our brother. But him in particular. He stressed, annoyed. What do you say about law? He looks like a drug addict, you can't tell me anything if I judge him as a bad influence on Luffy too, he responded, looking away with a pout formed. And Sanji? That's a womanizer. He's a total danger to the innocence of our dear little brother. Usopp? He's a coward. He won't teach you anything good. Frankie? The pervert without laws. Brook? The Stefakov Kofkov, what am I saying? He's simply too old to be with Luffy. Us? The bark? Robin? Very mysterious, that woman is hiding something. Chopper? Oh, with him I do approve of him being. Sabo sighed heavily, very heavily. If it were up to Ace, his brother wouldn't have a social life, he's a reindeer, Ace. He's an animal, and that means he can't have any bad intentions towards Luffy, he replied, smiling as if his logic was the best in the world. I'd better not answer you anymore. Hey. Why so angry? And Sabo went to prepare lunch for the two of them without answering him, his brother knew how to be very stupid when he wanted to be. Enter Luffy. Yes. Thanks for letting me stay at your house today. Shishishi. I bet Sabo asked you to be so polite, he gave a light laugh while shaking his head. Of course not, he said, pouting at his friend's accusations. But he wouldn't deny that he lacked the ability to fight with him. It was fun to get rid of Marines with him, or just play or sleep with him. Those simple actions he needed to do with all his nakamas. He and Zoro in this world had met at the beginning of the summer, but he preferred not to tell his brothers, until the end of the summer, about this new friend he had made. Most of the time they were away, Luffy spent his time texting with Zoro. Come on, let's go. Everything's ready upstairs. See. Shishishi. You, I won, ha. One of the 100 times I beat you. Congratulations, he said in a mocking tone, wanting to provoke the little monkey, who obviously got angry. That's not true. You're the one who doesn't accept losing. She said, facing him. Yes, of course, he came closer than he normally should, making the monkey a little uncomfortable. Hey, you're too close. The tension in the air was not long in coming, and they remained in an awkward silence, or at least that's how Luffy saw it. Zoro advanced further towards Luffy, cornering him in a corner of the room. Oh Zoro. You're too close. He said, putting a hand in the aforementioned's face, making a vein appear on his forehead. Idiot, I think you don't understand the situation we're in. Or rather, you never understand the situation we're in, and with that, she took Luffy's hand, pulled it away from her face and kissed him. Wait, what? Zoro, his nakama, Zoro, kissed him. Chapter. I know what? No. This couldn't be happening, not again, please. Not again, no, this isn't real, right? Right. He suddenly screamed in terror at Ace, who was almost as shocked as him. He didn't hear his brother's wails and scoldings as he ran after him. His breathing felt enormously heavy, heavier than it had ever been. This couldn't be true. He couldn't. He didn't want this to be true. He refused. Why? Buck. Why just when everything was going so well? His heartbreaking cry was easily heard by his older brother, who only had to follow the sound to find him. They were in a secluded area of the forest surrounded by trees which created a strange circle. He could feel tears running down his cheeks, and even though he tried to wipe them away, they wouldn't go away. Why wouldn't they? Sabo still, he's still and not here, yet he couldn't stop his crying, not even with all his might. Why did life have to be so cruel to him? He had to be strong for his little brother, his cute, tender, and beloved little brother Luffy. Sob couldn't help but escape his throat, but he had to pull himself together. No matter what. The burning sensation on his cheek didn't take long to appear from the blow he had just given. He had to be strong. For Luffy and for himself. He resumed his normal walk towards his little brother, holding back with all his might the tears that threatened to fall. The cup. Why? Buck. He had a strong grip on his shirt, feeling drops of blood fall to the floor from the pressure exerted on his hands. He felt an emptiness in his chest. It hurt like hell, it hurt so much it hurt. Again. Why? Because at least here couldn't everything go well. Why? He hit the floor without worrying about the wounds that would be created after such an act. He didn't care in the least about the physical pain, but the emotional pain had been a total nightmare these last 2 years. He wanted to tear his heart out, to get it out of his chest, so he wouldn't feel that suffocating and anguishing pain anymore. Why did it always have to be like this? Why? What did he do? Exactly, nothing. He did nothing, he never did anything. The one who always came protected was him, the one who always needed help with something was him, the crying brat was him, the one who always had to be rescued was him. Why was he the only one who had to be saved? Because even if he wanted it with all his heart, couldn't it be him when saving everyone? Why? As much as he wanted, with all his being, to return to his world, something was stopping him, or rather, someone. Someone Luffy knows damn well, someone with whom he had an unbreakable connection, someone who had supported him through thick and thin, someone to whom he owed a lot, someone he didn't love himself, someone who was his brother, that someone. Ace, his older brother, Portuguese D Ace. Finally, the three of them were together, with no one or anything that could separate them, like those arrogant and evil nobles, or like those pirates, or like that Tuguyubito, that huge son of a bitch. The touch snapped him out of his rising anger, and he found himself staring into his older brother's deep black eyes. Small flashbacks showed him those same eyes, so dark and so dull. Completely dull, as he wondered, at the point of death, after a battle fought exclusively for him, if anyone really loved him, if anyone really loved him. Luffy, listen to me. Damn it. His breathing was heavy as he inhaled and exhaled deeply. Sabo won't die. I know it. I trust him. If this ever happens to me, Luffy, I promise you, I promise you. He inhaled and exhaled. I promise you I won't die. He spat out saliva, luckily it wasn't blood. What the fuck? His brother had hit him. In a situation like that. The anger continued to grow more and more, his gaze turned red with anger. How do you allow yourself? You know how much I fucking hate it when someone lies. His last sentence had come with a throat ripped by the Mugiwara. What him? Lied to Luffy about this, him? You'll be the idiot this time. It was Ace getting angry. On top of Luffy, holding him by the collar of his shirt. How do you even doubt that I would break one of my promises? How did you even think? His tone had changed, the instinct warning Ace of danger was simply ignored by him. How did you even come to mind? His mere presence was scary now, but Luffy, instead of feeling angry, felt completely empty, or so he described the sharp pain in his heart. His crying hadn't stopped at any time. Have you ever stopped to think about the pain I felt when I lost you? He covered his face with his hands from the constant crying that he couldn't stop, then going on to grab his hair tightly. Have you ever stopped to think how fucking miserable and alone I would feel when I lost you after Sabo died? The pain I had to go through thinking that my only brother had died. What the hell are you talking about, Luffy? Sabo is not dead and I won't die. But you won't die. Again with the same shit, Ace. This time it was Luffy on top of Ace, holding him tightly by the collar of his shirt. You died in front of me. You died in front of me with a bucking hole in your stomach. After I managed to save you, you died. And you broke your promise. Why you broke your promise? Why? You broke the promise you had made to me on our island. His grip slowly faded, leaning his head forward, lightly resting his forehead on the other's shoulder, and continuing to cry, still sitting on his brother, who was still in shock. He was sure Luffy was delirious, but when he looked at him, when he looked into his eyes while saying those words, why were his eyes so empty? He was sure Luffy was delirious, but when he looked at him, when he looked into his eyes while saying those words, why were his eyes so empty? What was his brother talking about? Had he had a nightmare about them being dead? Maybe it was just that, but why that look of pure pain and suffering on his little brother's face? After that he remembered what was happening. Sabo. They had to find a way to go to Sabo. Luffy tried to revive him, thinking he had succeeded when he heard the younger Raven's voice. I wonder if you've never thought about how fucking painful it was to lose you. A whisper with a little hoarse voice he had left was released from the throat of the younger brunette, and then Ace knew that it hadn't worked. Apparently his little brother was still in that kind of shock. This had to stop. What the hell was wrong with his brother right now? Have you been having nightmares about us being dead, Luffy? Stop acting like a child. We have to go to Sabo's. No, his grip on Ace's shirt tightened. He had to clear some things up with Ace, and he knew it. He couldn't pretend to hide what had happened from him anymore. It was just stupid. He definitely couldn't delay things anymore. He had to close that scar that had been burning in his heart for years, and that's why Ace was there, alive. Ace's struggle was useless. Luffy. Leave me alone, damn it. Ace, we need to get this straight, here and now. Her gaze was completely serious, fixed on the other's eyes. She had stopped crying, and her breathing had normalized. Ace, even though he tried, couldn't understand the behavior his little brother was having at that moment. Following his logic, he simply couldn't understand. Can you explain to me what the hell is wrong with you? From one moment to the next you just become serious, while before you were saying I was dead. He couldn't contain his excitement, but Luffy still didn't seem to flinch. At that moment, he had a purpose and he would fulfill it. Luffy pulled hard on the Jet's arm, making him sit down. Ace, I'm not from this world. What? Now you're getting delirious. Listen, stubborn, said Luffy, already distressed that his older brother didn't want to listen to him. Look at me, he demanded. Maybe if he gave him proof of something that might seem unreal to Ace, he would believe him. Only the idiot wasn't even paying attention. He forcibly turned his head. If I don't solve this now, I'll never solve it, so look at me, he demanded again in a more ferocious and angry tone. When he finally got his brother's attention, who was looking at him sternly, he stretched his arm as far as he could, and there was no lack of a shocked look from the freckled man. How? I told you, Ace. I'm not from this world and I intend to return to mine, but before that I need something from you. From me? This time the freckled man was paying attention, only now he was torn between believing his brother and fainting from the endless emotions he was facing that day. Though doubt couldn't help but be evident on his face. Did he need something from him? Ace, he decided to start with a short prologue. I come from a world that you would call fantasy or even magical, with marines, pirates, devil fruits and extremely powerful people. Our childhood has been very similar and different at the same time. I ate the devil fruit Gomu Gomu no Mi. I am a rubber man and at the moment my goal is to return to my crew, which entails returning to my world as well. I am the man who will become the king of the pirates, but for that I need to overcome something that I put off for too long. Ace, I have to overcome you. He raised his gaze and their eyes met. A very cruel idea that he knew, deep down in his heart, could be his death. Those eyes, the ones Luffy looked at him with. They were sad, empty, and he never realized he was a complete piece of shit as an older brother. He was complete piece of shit at everything he did. Chapter 3/3 of the marathon. No. He refused. This couldn't be true. His nakama was kissing him, kissing. After passing from his state of momentary shock, he tried to get out of the green-haired boy's grip, which didn't work out very well for him, as he was cornered between the wall and Zoro, who at some point he hadn't realized had him by the waist with his left hand and by the chin with his right hand. He struggled a little more, but felt like he was slowly running out of air. Apparently this was easily noticed by the green-haired boy who, with a smile that Luffy couldn't decipher, moved away slightly, giving him a few seconds to breathe properly. Zoro, what the hell? He tried to pull away but was once again caught in a kiss by the green-haired boy. This time it was more demanding, and Zoro didn't wait long to bite and lightly pull the raven's lip so he could slip his tongue into the other's mouth. The raven's eyes couldn't have been more wide open in surprise. This was completely new to him. His surprise didn't stop when the green-haired boy pulled him closer. He felt suffocating, but, although he hated to admit it, it also felt good. No, too much. This had to stop. He had finally regained full consciousness of both his body and mind and used brute force for a few moments to push Zoro away, who helplessly let go. Luffy tried to regulate his strength and, although compared to Zoro he was a flea both in mass and height, his strength was 1,000 times greater and they weren't joking around when they faced each other. After all, he was the captain and no matter how careless he was, he had to take care of his crew as they took care of him. He hadn't slept in those 2 years he was with Rayleigh. He passed by Zoro to reach the other side of the room like lightning, without the latter even being able to notice him, recovering his normal breathing. Why you? What? Angry? He smirked and stood about 2 meters away from Luffy so he wouldn't get scared. Although he admitted that he was surprised to see how Luffy went from one side of the room to the other, he preferred to camouflage his surprise with his smile. But he decided to ask anyway. How did you go from one side of the room to the other so quickly? It was better to ask him now to try to make him forget about the subject. Which, unfortunately, didn't work for him. Don't change the subject. Because you did that. Are you really telling me you didn't get all the hints I've been sending you since we almost met? Indeed, I should have seen it coming, he said resignedly. Since we met. You've always been like this. Her friends' personalities hadn't changed at all. And Zoro was literally just like she remembered him. How was it possible in this world that it was understood. Look Luffy, I don't want to ruin what we have, but I thought you noticed and that you didn't walk away because you felt the same way as me. At this point, Luffy could feel a burning sensation on his face. Feeling the same as him? His vice captain? He couldn't help but doubt what he felt. He had never thought that way about Zoro, or being with a woman or a man. I mean, he hadn't even thought about romantic relationships until now, but when Zoro asked him, he couldn't help but doubt it. Did he really not have any interest in Zoro? He didn't notice when the green-haired boy started talking, he only did so when Zoro touched him while saying his name. He approached, leaving what seemed like just the right amount of space between the two and spoke, seeing that this time he would have the Raven's attention. Luffy sighed but gathered his courage and continued. I'm not very good at this, and I know it's a bit fast, but I really feel like I like you, and I want to be with you. Why do you accept? Should I accept? Should I accept? He had no idea now. Nothing at all. He didn't understand the feelings he had at that moment, nor the ones he should have. What did he say? Yes. No. Book it. Thinking is shit. Everything is shit. He ran as fast as he could, and the only thing Zoro could hear as he gathered his things faster than lightning and left was I'll give you an answer this week. Damn. This couldn't be real. And by the way, the day after tomorrow I'd have to go with Sabo and Ace to the all-you-canis or whatever it was called. Buck, what should I say? Screw everything and everyone, I'll think about it later, and that's the end of it. Anyway, when I get back, everything will be normal and it'll be like this never happened, right? How much I hated overthinking things. Now how did I get back home? Next time let me know. Yes, sorry he said making a puppy face. Damn, Sabo knew that by making that face he would win him over and well, yes, that's what happened XD. Do you have everything ready for Wednesday? Yes. He said happily, having already forgotten everything. Sure. Yes. Sure. Look, Ace and I aren't going to lend you anything, eh? I know. Good. I guess you've convinced me. Shishishi, how sweet, I'll spend the whole day with Sabo and Ace on Wednesday. His sweet little face couldn't be seen by Sabo since he was driving at the time, but the comment seemed very sweet to him. His brother was always sweet. Had he always been? Luffy? Yeah? Did you behave like that in your world too? Shishishi, yes. And I behaved like that. Yes, also. Do they really all behave the same as those in your world? It's strange. At that point, Luffy started to stop responding. What his brother had said had made him think about Zoro again and how he'd never realized how much of his attitude. No, he didn't have to think about that anymore. Yes, most of the people I've met behave the same way. I honestly didn't notice any difference, especially when it comes to my nakamas. Oh, okay, fine. I think I just realized this was more like an interrogation, haha, the dark-haired boy laughed, and from then on, the two of them didn't bring up the subject again. He had missed spending time with his brother 3. Oh, I almost forgot, Luffy, when we get there I'll tell you something. Sabo, AC, wake up. Their lovely morning started with Luffy jumping on their bed at 5 in the morning. What a lovely way to wake up, huh? Luffy, I'll kill you. The older black-haired boy was strangling his little brother who was still half asleep but had enough energy to do it while the little monkey was just laughing his head off. Luffy, I told you I had to rest well today, he scolded him, still sleepy and under his blankets. Huh? Why? He sighed in resignation, it was the only thing he could do given how careless his brother was. What had he told you yesterday? He thought about it for a few minutes, what was he talking about? Oh right. The exam. Wow, I thought you weren't even going to remember. Okay, now, get up. You two go brush your teeth while I cook. Sabo spent most of his time studying. Apparently, his exam had been brought forward and he only found out later. Let's see, I think this needs an explanation. For Luffy, school hadn't started yet, but for Ace and Sabo it had, since they both went to the same school, just in different sections, and the school they went to was demanding. So they had already started taking exams. Ready? Yes. Let's go. Brats, I'm not going home if one of you forgets something, eh? Yes, we know, old man. Don't call me old. Okay, old man. A poorly hidden laugh was heard from the two dark-haired men sitting in the back seats, while the old man's vein popped out in anger. Ace, Sabo, when is he coming? I don't know, but he'll probably come in less than half an hour. Oh, okay. Don't get discouraged, idiot. He told us he'd come, and he will, or so I hope. I saw how busy he was with his homework just today. I hope he does come. We can't go to the forest without him. It'll take the 3 of us. Let's go in and start ordering food. You can grab whatever you want. Yes. Ace couldn't help but smile sideways at his little brother. He looked very cute, although he would never admit it. The owners of the all-you-can-eat restaurant went bankrupt. Ace. Where the hell is that idiot Sabo? We've been waiting for him for an hour. It's already 3:12, if he doesn't hurry, it'll be dark soon. The place we want to go is dangerous at night. What do we do? What if Grandpa takes him directly there? Anyway, the walk will only take about half an hour. In the meantime, I'll call him or text him so he knows. Luffy, come on. Yes. Now my little brother was a ball of fat. I have no idea how he manages to lose weight so fast. Sabo, where the hell are you? Why weren't you answering his calls? That idiot, he always pretends to be punctual, but now he's the one who isn't. They had left the restaurant about 10 minutes ago and were on their way to the forest. There were still about 15-20 minutes left until they could get there, or at least that's what Piece Luffy said. He just hoped his phone didn't run out of juice in the middle of the road, or they would be screwed. They had planned for Sabo to have his phone fully charged since he had forgotten to charge it the night before and only discovered it at the last minute. Meanwhile, Luffy didn't understand how important it was for the 3 of them to go, but he let it go. He didn't care much anyway. Although he would have liked to spend his birthday with Sabo too, he wouldn't have complained. After all, he said he would come, so there was no need to worry. They had already arrived at the place and there was no sign of Sabo. Ace had stopped calling and texting him a while ago, afraid that his phone battery would run out. AC, can't we just go in and wait for Sabo inside the forest? No, idiot. We can't risk getting lost and him not finding us. We'd be lost if the battery was dead. His little brother had been extremely irritating. Suddenly the vibration of a phone was present. The 2 black men immediately turned their attention to the phone in Ace's pocket. Answer me. Luffy demanded. Yes, yes, I'm coming. He said in an anxious and somewhat desperate tone. Taking the phone from his back pocket and immediately accepting the call without even looking at who it was. Sabo. Sabo. Are you there? He repeated the name to be sure the other person heard him. Where the hell are you, idiot? Sorry. I had some problems at school and couldn't come sooner. I'm on my way to you right now, wait for me there. He sounded rushed and as if he was doing something, but neither of them paid attention to him. Sabo don't take so long, okay? He said in a warning tone and pouting. Sabo, I have a problem, my phone doesn't have much battery and if I'm lucky, maybe it will last me for 1 hour maximum. Never mind, you guys go. I remember exactly how to get there anyway. I have to go now. Bye. See you there. But hung up. Damn Sabo. Ugh, fine, if he gets lost it's his fault. Come on Luffy. Yeah, so the forest where we became siblings, huh? Why do I have such a bad feeling about this? It was practically night and they had finally arrived. Until now, Sabo had not arrived. They waited 5 minutes, 10 minutes, then 20 and 30, and there was no sign of Sabo. Where the hell was that idiot? Luffy at that point was sitting on a rock getting bored while Ace thought about what they would do if Sabo didn't arrive. They heard the sound of the phone vibrating in Ace's pocket again. Oh? Ace. It's Sabo. He exclaimed happily and smiling as he went towards his brother. Ace didn't wait long to answer, again, without seeing who was calling. Sabo. For the second time this damn day, where the hell are you? Sir, please calm down, I need to speak to you urgently. Huh? Who was that girl? And why was she calling from Sabo's phone? First of all, let me introduce myself. I am the nurse in charge of communicating and informing relatives. A nurse? Excuse me, but why are you calling from my brother's phone? I kindly ask you to sit down and try to stay calm for what I am going to tell you next. Yeah, right, what happened now? He admitted he was anxious, but he just did what he was asked and sat next to his little brother. Luffy, on the other hand, was nervous, feeling his heart racing and his stomach in knots. Something was wrong. He knew it from the moment they set foot in that forest, and it seemed he was right. Can you continue? Well, your brother was in a car accident along with the man I believe to be your grandfather. Monkey D. Garp. His injuries weren't too noticeable, but Mr. Sabo suffered severe head trauma and he's currently in a coma. We'll do what we can, but it helps if you get here as fast as you can. Shock, frustration, pain and anxiety were not long in coming, and the two were frozen by what they had been told. What do you like in a coma? I'm so sorry about this, sir, but we're trying to do the best we can. Please calm down. Ace, what is coma? The nurse was surprised to hear another voice in the background, but decided to explain it herself. A coma is a state of prolonged loss of consciousness that can be caused by different problems. Traumatic head injury, stroke, brain tumor, drug or alcohol poisoning, or even an underlying disease, such as diabetes or an infection. In short, your brother won't be awake for a little while, but don't worry, we'll try to wake him up. She explained the last part as easily as she could, thinking she was talking to a child, and indeed, this one physically was. But Luffy on the other hand no longer had any doubts, that was it. Chopper at some point during his journey had explained what it was, and he wasn't so sweet when he said it. As soon as they talked about medicine, Chopper said the pure and harsh reality. My brother, he swallowed hard holding his breath. How many chances does he have of living? The lady's nervousness didn't give either of them a good feeling. She couldn't just say that everything was fine. They had to be prepared for the impact of finding out their brother was dead. If she was too gentle and got their hopes up too much, it was obvious they were going to be more psychologically devastated than they would be if she didn't tell them how things were. This was her job, and she couldn't just say that everything would be okay when dozens of deaths had happened before their eyes. It was her duty to tell them the truth, and that's what they deserved, so she just said it. Mr. Sabo has a 16.7% chance of still being alive. I'm truly sorry about this, and I hope you come as soon as possible. The phone turned off. Chapter. The bucking complete piece of shit older brother. No, you're not. Hopefully, the little monkey threw himself into his arms. You never were. The world didn't want you to see its good side, but if only it had been stronger, I would have protected you from its bad side. He tightened his grip on the freckled man's shirt with a slight tremble in his hand that passed in a second, and he returned to concentrate on his words. He released his grip, as well as his hug, to slowly look him in the eyes again, this time with a soft gaze, but with a touch of pain hidden in it. An old friend told me that someone's personality is formed by their memories and experiences. Did you distrust that world so much that you came to think that we didn't love you? I never knew. I could never get all this clear with you. I never managed to make you understand that you actually had someone with you. You had your friends. You had your family. Ace, you had us, you had your brothers. He didn't know what to say, but even though it was hard to admit, what Luffy said was true, a truth that had been overshadowed by his self-destructive feelings. The lopsided smile appeared on his face, contrasting with his sad gaze. His brother was letting out everything that was chained down his heart. He wasn't going to stop until he was done. After all, he was the one who had decided to fight even after being rescued. I managed to face things, Ace, now I have a reward of a lot of berries, I even surpassed yours. He said with a big smile. I overcame many things, Ace, I became one of the 4 junkies, I am so close to One Piece how much no one would imagine, I have many allies, I made many friends. He did not stop. He continued talking about everything, trying to tell Ace even the smallest detail, especially about his crew and how wonderful the days on the Sunny were, venturing into corners of the plot about it, talking and talking until he could not take it anymore, throwing out all the emotions gathered and hidden for years that he kept, until finally, it became night. I'm really glad I was able to tell you, it wasn't the same with Robin. He looked into her eyes again when a caress ruffled her hair. An empathetic look was given to him, a look that made the pores of his skin prickle. Her eyes looked dead, just like that time. Ace, he asked, trembling. Luffy, maybe my death was just what you needed to move forward. One last caress was placed so that when she wanted to go hug him, she wouldn't be able to touch him. Ace was fading away, as was everyone around him. I'll always be proud of you, Luffy, tell Sabo that I love him, even though that idiot has been missing for so many years. And so, that endless dream ended. Leaving space for an infinite black. A space of infinite black in which a blinding light appeared in front of him. So you finally got over it. Following the voice, an echo resonated throughout the room. That voice, you. Give me back my world, idiot. A light laugh was heard before the same guy who transported him to that kind of parallel star appeared in front of him. Who are you? He prepared his combat pose instantly, but not before retreating at least a meter. Okay, let me introduce myself. I was your brother's right-hand man. Ace, taking off his hood, stared into the younger man's eyes. Why? Both of them, unfortunately, knew what that question was referring to. Because you had to get over it. And besides, it wasn't my decision. Ace told you to do it, didn't he? A heavy sigh escaped his mouth upon seeing the amused smile on the taller man's face, and I just had to ask you. It's been a long time. I want to see my teammates now, and I have to clear up some things with my right-hand man. For them, these years passed like mere days, so don't be surprised if they're not so worried. Goodbye, monkey. Goodbye, and thank you. Shishi. Chapter. Eyes. He jumped into the arms of the first nakama in front of him and wrapped them all in a hug. You've been disrespectful to me. Shishishi. Luffy. How is it that a very stunned Nami half asked, and then chaos erupted among the crew, asking 1,001 questions, which, as an answer, only received Luffy's intrepid chuckle. You have missed me a lot. What happened all this time you weren't here? We were getting worried. We haven't seen you in like 2 weeks. For a few moments we thought we'd never see you again. The orange-haired girl, after saying that, threw herself into a deeper hug, whimpering into her captain's shoulder along with some other crew members. Shishi, sorry to worry you guys, but this helped, and a lot. She waited a few moments until she remembered one thing. Zoro. Hello, Captain, he replied with a small smile on his mouth. I'll talk to you later, but for now, party. Everyone was celebrating and being happy until Sanji cut the air. We always throw a party for anything, Captain. Shit, just because you were out for a few weeks this time. Forget it. But Sanji. He whined, grabbing onto his leg from a few meters away, thanks to his Akuma no Mi. Come on, Sanji, I think our captain deserves it. Phew, for Robin commented in his normal calm tone, but with a gentle smile. Robin Schweian did a few somersaults before approaching Robin with his typical hearts in his eyes. You're absolutely right. Today is a party. I just laughed at my Nakama's behavior, they were the best. So? What did you want to talk about, Captain? He asked, taking a few sips of sake. They were at the top of the ship, where Zoro usually trained or slept. You like me? Zoro spat out the sake from his mouth. What? What if you like me? Okay Zoro, calm down, this has to be a misunderstanding, there's no way Luffy knows about lover couples. Yes, but Luffy pounced on him without even waiting for him to finish, his smile had widened to how it usually was, and he surrounded the green-haired boy with his elastic arms. Me too. No, Luffy, I doubt you like me. I'm not talking about simple friendship, he replied defeatedly to his captain. He knew what Luffy was like. Hints were useless with him, and in all these months, he hadn't even noticed one of the many hints. They were very close to each other. He was still tangled in his arms, and as soon as Luffy looked at him he began to speak, with a certain blush on his cheeks due to the closeness. Luffy, I don't think what I feel is the same as what you feel. He looked away. How come not? Had he been wrong in the other reality? A small emptiness came to his chest and he untangled himself from Zoro, getting off of him, looking into his eyes, searching for answers when he saw how the other was going to speak. I like you too, but in a romantic way, not a friendship way. Luffy made a confused face. I knew it, Luffy didn't feel the same, he saw him only as a friend. It wasn't the first time she confessed to Luffy, he didn't know how to distinguish feelings of friendship from romantic feelings. I like you in a romantic way too. Zoro, believe me, I'm serious. He sighed, no, Luffy, I doubt you'll ever feel the same, even if you think you do. He had already suffered enough disappointments from his captain, he didn't want any more. That thought vanished like simple dust blown by a gust of wind when she felt the other's lips on hers, creating a slow and loving kiss. Arms were wrapped around his shoulders, hanging from them due to the captain's short stature. He slowly closed his eyes, deepening the kiss and letting his mind focus on just that. They slowly separated, looking into each other's eyes. Zoro, I want to be your partner. To the green-haired boy, all this seemed like a dream, one of his many dreams, but it was true. I love you, he said hopefully, looking shocked. Me too, shishi. And that day ended with a last tender kiss before the two fell into a deep sleep. After that, they announced their relationship. Luffy wasn't going to lie about the fact that before his second-in-command's talk, he and Robin had gone to see each other about their feelings. After all, he was still inexperienced in love, but he liked the feeling it left in his heart. It wasn't long before a week later, when his crew felt more relieved to have him with them, he called Sabo. He told her absolutely everything when he arrived, leaving out no detail, and finally in those days they had the moment to share everything that had happened in those years. Their conversation was long and extensive but certainly necessary, needed by both parties. They talked about everything that had happened in the years Sabo was gone and about the past, remembering beautiful moments they would never forget. Obviously there was no lack of talk about Luffy's boyfriend, and there was no lack of preaching from his older brother, warning him about a myriad of things, but in the end the blonde didn't make any problems or questions, he just accepted that his brother had already grown up and that him having a boyfriend was the most normal thing. The time had come to party. Because of course, if Sabo left they needed to have a party for that nonsense, or else they would definitely be seen as the worst pirate ship in history, right? Everyone's chatter was the main topic of the ship's conversation at mealtime. A few hands were snatching food from all sides, and a blonde man who ate with elegance and roughness at the same time was a real highlight that day. The crew couldn't understand how he managed to fascinate even while eating, being so grotesque. Everything was laughter, everything was happy, and after eating many had gotten drunk. Sabo noticed his brother leaving in the middle of the party, he seemed nostalgic, so he didn't hesitate to follow him. He had stood on the head of the sunny, his usual place from what he had seen, and looked at the ocean, with a smile that he had been missing so much. He approached with slow but clearly audible steps. Luffy already knew who he was from the moment he left the kitchen. The two of them gazed at the immense moon, its color so hypnotic and fascinating, listening to everything around them. From the circus in the kitchen to the waves of the sea. Sabo, he called, but the blonde didn't take his eyes off the sky, however Luffy already knew he was listening to him. I will overcome it. Sabo placed a hand delicately on the raven's head, caressing it with a fine touch. I love you, little brother. I do it too, Sabo, shishi. The two smiled in unison, staying to see that splendid landscape that the moon offered them. And let me know in the comments below if you guys want the next part. Also check out my other video that has been shown and left. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video please like and share this video. And have a fantastic day. Bye.